After all of these years, after all of these properties that have been ruined by remakes for so many decades now, I can't believe we're still getting remakes like this. I can't believe Hollywood is still making remakes. For who? For what? For what audience is this for? What fan sat there and said, I want a shitty Crow remake. I want a half-assed Crow remake. I want a Crow remake that doesn't give a shit about the fans and the people that love the original movie. Ah, shit. Fucking hell. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and I just got done watching The Crow Remake. They're going. Yeah, get your asses in there. Yeah. And sometimes I watch a film that makes me feel like I'm getting too old for this shit. Because, yes, I have watched and reviewed the original 1994 classic. I've even sat down and watched and reviewed all of the sequels. Most were direct DVD. And even though I ranted hard on a lot of those movies, this one is different. This one hits a little different. Because I remember when I first heard about Hollywood wanting to make this remake. And it's different from the sequels because at least those are different characters with different names. But this is a straight up remake with the same names, the same characters. And it's been in development. Hell, you would think, or at least I thought that they learned their lesson. Like, hey, this isn't going to work. All of these actors, from Bradley Cooper to Jason Momoa, they all left these projects. Until, unfortunately, Bill Skarsgård, you're up. This movie was directed by Rupert Sanders, and that name sounded insanely familiar to me. And so I looked him up, and I saw that he directed Snow White and the Huntsman and Ghost in the Shell, that Scarlett Johansson movie. Yeah, so not the greatest track record. But even with that, even though those movies aren't great, especially Ghost in the Shell, I hated, but at least those movies had their own style to them, had their own unique look to them, had something about them that felt special in some ways. This movie feels lifeless and soulless and devoid of any point of existing. Fuck! Is this the worst movie of the year? I don't know. Maybe that's going too far, and maybe it's because it's way too fresh in my brain because I just watched it, but there's so much wrong with this. Let's first talk about the cast. Bill Skarsgård unfortunately plays Eric. And I like Bill Skarsgård. Like, just in general, he seems like a good dude. The movies that I've seen him in, the other movies I've seen him in, I'm like, he's a very solid to good actor. He even played Pennywise in the It remake. Another remake that you would think would also be unnecessary, but that actually worked, and he was actually great in that. And so I don't know what the fuck happened here. Clearly he was directed to act like he had no acting skills at all, or to act like he has no emotion and has no personality, has no sense of relatability to this version of Eric. I know that his character and his girlfriend Shelley goes through some fucked up shit. And so, of course, throughout the movie, he's going to be, I guess, emo, if that's what you want to call it. Just the silent type. But you don't connect to him. You don't really get a good sense of what's in this guy's head. You don't feel like you know what's going on with him or try to understand exactly how he's feeling. And I want to do my best to not compare this to the original because, well, for one, there's no comparison. But also, you're trying to see if there's anything that this movie is able to get right on its own merits, or maybe try to stray from doing what the original did. I know it's based off of a comic, and so you think, well, maybe they're trying to play off of the original source material. But the whole beginning of this movie, how Eric's character doesn't talk because he starts off weird. He starts off detached. He starts off with no emotions. So again, I can't fucking relate to this guy. I can't care about this guy when he meets Shelly, and they meet at like some drug rehab center that's kind of for criminals. I mean, I don't really know what the hell's going on, but they meet in a matter of, I don't know, I'll give them 72 hours. They fall in love, and they're supposed to be these soulmates that have come together, and nothing can tear them apart. Even death can't tear them apart. And look, I get that this movie, I guess, thought it was a good idea to let's actually spend some time with Eric and Shelly this time around before we kill them. Let's try to show how they fall in love. But because there's no chemistry, because there's nothing to this relationship, because it's so bare bones and so filled with nothingness, that I don't care about this couple. I just was bored to tears with the two of them just running away and hiding out and going to nightclubs, even though they're supposed to be hiding out, doing drugs and just doing stupid shit, even though they're supposed to be hiding out. And I'm like, can we just kill them already? Can we get to the part of the story where they die? Shelly is played by somebody of the name FKA Twigs, formerly known as? Is that what that stands for? I don't know who this chick is. I looked her up and she's a British singer. And like, I'm not going to attack her for being cast in this movie, right? That's not her fault. It's the casting director. But I did not care for her. I mean, I'm not going to say she's awful or the worst actress ever, because that's clearly not true. But I also did not feel bad for her. I felt like she just got herself into some dumb shit and sort of dragged Eric down into her dumb shit and probably deserved getting killed, if I'm being completely honest. Danny Houston plays the villain. And it's like, how many movies have I reviewed where I've said the words, Danny Houston plays the villain of this movie? When he shows up, it's like, of course. Of course he's the villain. Especially a shitty movie at that. It's just this guy loves to play villains in terrible, terrible movies. And they try to do something with his character where he also has some supernatural abilities. Like he supposedly made a deal with the devil or some said shit. I don't know. They only say it in like one sentence. And then there's a couple of scenes where he uses these evil powers to like coerce people, corrupt people, get them to do shit. But that's really it. You don't really understand what's going on. They don't really develop what his character has going on and how evil he is. He's just generic bad guy number 12. If I had to sort of squeeze out good things to say about this movie, if I had to look deep into my soul to try to be nice for 2 seconds, I will say that the moments of Eric going into the dead realm or the undead realm, whatever you want to call it, when he's in between life and death, and he finds this older guy, and the guy explains to him what he's going to be able to do because of the crow powers. Okay, they're at least trying to flesh this out, but that in between all of the bullshit is just not enough for me to keep going. The action, and I can't believe I'm saying like action for a Crow movie, because at times it feels like it's trying to be John Wick, or it's trying to be and granted, it's bloody, it's violent, the action is pretty gruesome. When Eric kills people, and even himself when he gets shot and stabbed, like, they don't shy away from the rated R and the blood. And so, if nothing else, if you try to detach yourself from the fact that this is called The Crow, that the fact that this is directed poorly, and the fact that this is acted very mundane, and the fact that this is the lessest version of this Crow type story that I think I've ever seen, I can watch the action scenes and get something out of it. There is one sequence where he's in a car and he gets shoved out and he gets run over, and it's like, God damn, that looked like it fucking sucked for the character. And then there's another scene, a whole sequence where he goes to some opera and he has to go through, feels like 50 henchmen in order to get to the bad guy that he's getting to. And so that was very bloody. That was very amusing to watch, I guess I can say. But the whole idea that this movie tries to hammer home and shove down your throat is that it's not even as much, I guess technically, the Crow is the source of the power. But they make it seem like it's more his love for Shelley that's the source of his power. And maybe if I understood their relationship, or if I connected to their relationship, if I felt like they actually were this lifelong, years-long couple, not just a weekend of having sex and doing drugs and like, yeah, sure, we're in love, yeah, whatever, then maybe I would buy into the whole love is the source of the fucking key and the power and bullshit. But because I didn't buy that, and because it was so heavy-handed and it was so self-serious, I thought a lot of this dialogue and a lot of this material was laughable. This is bad in so many ways, and by the time the movie ends, I just kind of went, fuck, man. What a big fat waste of time. I cannot believe that these are the type of remakes that, after all of these years, after all of these properties that have been ruined by remakes for so many decades now, I can't believe we're still getting remakes like this. I can't believe Hollywood is still making remakes. For who? For what? For what audience is this for? What fan sat there and said, I want a shitty Crow remake. I want a half-assed Crow remake. I want a Crow remake that doesn't give a shit about the fans and the people that love the original movie. Fuck off! This is some old bullshit if I have ever seen it.
Man, this some old bullshit.
The only solace I can take is knowing that this movie bombed hard at the box office. Thank God audiences are still a little smarter than sometimes we give them credit for. Let me know in the comments below if you too happen to see this bullshit Crow remake. Unnecessary bullshit. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.